Welcome. Let's get started. We hate punishing the punctual, so let's get it going. So, welcome to Community Power Network. Today is the 27th. You all, this is our 15th session. We've been rocking and rolling for quite some time, and still have a long way to go, right? But if you showed up today for the CPN, you are in the right space. I believe folks have met me. My name is Nastasia Moore. I am a part of this beautiful and brilliant team. We will be able to introduce ourselves a bit later. But before we get started, we got to know who's in the room. We got to know who we're talking to really quickly. If you can drop your name, your pronouns, your racial identity, and the organization that you are representing in the chat, that would be super helpful. It's good to know who we have in the space as we get ready for some good dialogue. So want to know where you're situated at and who you are. Introduce yourselves. Where y'all at? All right. As folks are introducing themselves in the chat, I want to talk about our journey for today. And boy, do we have a journey. Okay, so we can't do business as usual or even start business until we acknowledge the land that we're on. My friend and colleague, Miss Lori, will take us through our landing labor acknowledgement. Do not be surprised if she calls on a volunteer. It's a smaller space. We want to hear from folks. So landing labor. We always want to bring culture and flavor to the space. And so we honor and do it for the culture. And so we'll do it for the culture for today. We want to do a little recap. Where did we leave off last time? So we're going to talk about it. And then for what Lamont would say, the meat and potatoes for today. We're welcoming back Change Matrix. And so we have Lauren, we have Angel in the house, okay, or in the Zoom room. We have them today. That's going to lead some facilitated conversation around what our future looks like, right? And talking a little bit about some lessons learned. If that sounds good to you all, I just need some reactions. Is that good? Is that good? Give me some reactions. I can know to move forward. Okay, cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Miss Lori, can I pass this to you first? An acknowledgement of our land.
Thank you, Nastasia. Micah, aloha mai. Welcome, everyone. It's wonderful to see some faces on screen, see some energy in the chat as you're introducing yourself. Let's bring our spirits into alignment with others for our time together for this community-powered network. Thank you for your generosity, wisdom, and spirit you're bringing into this space together. For those who are new to our community, my name is Lori Pampilo Harris. I identify as she, her, Oya. Oya reflects my Native Hawaiian indigenous identity. I'm also a descendant of the Mandaya Muslim clan of Mindanao, Philippines. And I'm a partner here on the journey with SAIH, with the Community Power Network. And today and every day as part of our SIH team and in starting our Community Powered Network as a community, we recognize that the land that we each are on is Native land. And we begin each CPN with this acknowledgement. I'm going to read the land acknowledgement as a warm-up. I'm hoping that as we do the labor acknowledgement next, someone might be willing to come off mute and read that for us. So get your vocal cords ready. I'll be calling out on somebody, but I will read the land acknowledgement for us today. Today, we would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous people of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, we'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land and resources which we all call home and we take from. If this is and always will be Native land, we do this land acknowledgement to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all Indian tribes and tribal nations. And despite centuries of genocide and occupation, Native people continue as a vibrant and resilient tribes, bands, and racherias. And today we celebrate our tribal neighbors as the ancestral stewards of this land and honor their sustained existence. As we begin this journey together in our virtual session, we acknowledge and honor the original inhabitants of all of our various regions. These sovereign people have been caretakers of the area since time immemorial. Let's take a moment to honor these ancestral grounds that we are collectively gathered upon and support their resilience and strength that all Indigenous people have shown worldwide. Okay, as I shared, during each CPN, not only do we do a land acknowledgement, but we put an equal importance and value by sharing a labor acknowledgement, where we want to make sure that we respectfully acknowledge our debt to the enslaved people of African descent, whose stolen labor and suffering built and grew the economy and infrastructure of a country that refused to recognize their humanity. Would someone please come off mute and share the labor acknowledgement by reading from the slide today?
Hi, Lori, it's Jaja, and I'll be reading for you today.
Thank you.
We humbly acknowledge and honor the profound contributions of enslaved individuals, predominantly of African descent, whose unwavering labor and endurance forged the foundation upon which our nation stands today. Their toil and suffering, endured amidst the brutality of chattel slavery and the insidious legacy of Jim Crow, shaped the very fabric of our society, propelling its growth and prosperity. Therefore, we stand in solidarity with the descendants of the enslaved, bearing witness to the enduring repercussions of their oppression and vowing to dismantle the systems of inequity that continue to perpetuate their marginalization and exclusion. It is incumbent upon us to acknowledge their labor, honor their sacrifice, and actively work towards a future rooted in justice, equity, and collective healing. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Jaja. And let those words reaffirm in our hearts and our minds and manifest in our actions as we pursue our time together today, but as we continue our journey in our collective impact towards social and racial equity. All right, I think I'm handing it back over to you, Nastasia.
Thank you, Lori, and beautiful job, Zaza. All right, y'all, my favorite part, do it for the culture. All right, so for those of you who are newer to this space, we do this do it for the culture piece, right? And we think about this phrase as it refers to something that represents our benefits where we each come from, right? And our cultures. I think that this phrase has evolved over time, right? Meaning we honor and preserve and evaluate our specific cultural identities and spaces. And so when we think about Do It for the Culture, we have seen how like this movement has been widely adopted through, I don't know, music, our social influences, social media, our everyday conversations, right? That contribute to our authenticity. And so what we do here is we ask folks to volunteer. If somebody wants to volunteer yourselves to do it for the culture piece, it can be, we've had things from music selection, songs, poems. Lori brings the inspiration into the room. We've had collective care, but it's really all about honoring our unique perspectives and our experiences for us to continue to do this collective work, for us to continue to have collective voice, for us to continue to have collective impact. And so this is why we do this here. Something else about the Do It for the Culture piece, which is, different from like doing business as usual. We like to think of this as like reminding us that our work has more significance beyond like our immediate task or our immediate goals. And so Lamont talks a lot about like we have to not be so performative. This work is beyond just being performative, right? It's about uplifting our communities. And so this is why we do the Do It for the Culture piece. Now, for today, it's okay. We're gonna send out something to ask for some volunteers. I got y'all today. Today the Do It for the Culture is called That Little Voice. And so I want us to listen to this clip and then think about how we're applying it to our learnings, especially here, because this has something to do with what you all practiced last month and the month before. Okay, so let's listen to this short clip and then we'll talk about it for 2.5 seconds.
You know that little voice in your head? The one that tells you to ignore a tasteless joke.
The one that tells you to keep quiet when a client makes a racist comment.
The little voice that tells you you're not smart enough because English isn't your first language.
Or that it's okay to judge someone for leaving early because they have family commitments.
The one that tells you not to say anything when others are being reduced to stereotypes.
Or that it's not a big deal when everyone's opinion isn't considered.
You may think you're the only one that hears that voice, but that voice also speaks to other people. It says, "You're different."
You're an outsider.
You lack commitment.
Your opinion doesn't matter.
Instead of listening to that little voice, you need to find yours and make it heard. It's time for all of us to speak up. Because when we change the dialogue, we can change our world.
Okay, so why the little voice? Why that clip for today? Um, I feel like this video talks about that voice in your head that holds you back from speaking out, right? Or speaking up against injustices by, like in the video said, ignoring offensive jokes, staying silent when others face discrimination. Um, these things may make it feel like you don't belong or that your opinion doesn't matter. But instead of listening to those voices in our heads and ignoring it, I think it's important for us to speak up and be heard. And I think that this goes well with when we talk about changing the conversation and having brave and courageous conversations, because a lot of people don't feel like they have power to speak up or spaces for their voices. But here's the thing about staying silent or being complicit. Staying silent is being complicit, right? And choosing not to speak up means that we are, I don't know, indirectly, I don't know, supporting the behavior or further enabling folks to speak up. And so I think this goes really well because as we are learning about inviting diverse partnerships and and co-creators of all different walks of life into our spaces and into our design, when we talk about sharing power, I think it's important that we speak up. I think it's important that that little voice in your head should encourage us to be heard. And so, yeah, I thought that this clip was totally appropriate today in lieu of what we've been practicing for the last couple of weeks when it comes to brave and courageous conversation. Does this resonate with folks? Any thoughts or reflections about the video? Could you see yourself in the video?
Yeah, this is Georgia Nastasia. I learned something in the video. And what I learned was it was more than just racism that people keep quiet about.
Yeah.
when someone's opinion doesn't matter, and the fairness. And when someone feels like they're less than or not heard or seen because their language isn't English. English is not like the most powerful language. Your language is the most powerful language, and that's what I think. I think that we need to just encourage each other to love on ourselves and what our culture is, what our stance is, because they're all beautiful. We just need to, let that light shine.
Oh, beautifully said and right on point. So yeah, if we think about as we mature in this space, let's think about not being complicit. Let's think about speaking up and speaking out, especially for those who can't uh, have voices in the room for themselves. All right. Recap session 14, couple things. We are still working through our framework of equity-centered community design. We focused a lot of our energies with this, inviting co-creators, which will continue on throughout the duration of this project, right? Because we can't do the work without our diverse co-creators. We talked a little bit about within these partnerships, what does it look like as you all build your teams? What do the stages of partnership look like? Where are you all in your stages of partnership? And so we talked a lot about team formation and the development of partnerships. You all were able to come up with some community agreements. So talking about holding brave and courageous conversations. Before doing that, committing to creating rules of engagement, or what we like to call them community agreements. And so you all were able to lean in and contribute to what those look like. Then we talked about and practice the steps for facilitating brave and courageous conversations, which went phenomenal, and folks were able to practice real conflict in real time, I believe. And so we are still here though. So we haven't veered too far away from practicing brave and courageous conversations. We'll continue to do that as we move on and mature through the community of practices. But I just wanted to give folks a snapshot of where we are and where we left off. Does this resonate? Is this familiar, or am I making this up? All right, cool. All right. So now I wish I had like a drum roll or something similar. Y'all, we would like to welcome back the wonderful and amazing Angel and Lauren. If I could introduce them really briefly, I promise you I'll be quick because they are it for today. But I want to introduce Angel first, if I may. So Angel is a change matrix consultant, a change consultant, and a project director for advancing culturally responsive and equitable evaluation. He has a lot of experience from Colorado and the Colorado Health Foundation, in which he's led huge initiatives across the country, making evaluation practices and doing community building. We believe, and from what Angel has shared with us, he's really passionate, you all, about shifting power and resources to historically marginalized and disenfranchised communities, especially with what we are focused on in this realm of our work and health equity, environmental justice, right? And so I also, Angel is more than this wonderful change consultant doing humanity work. But he also likes the more simple things, right? Angel takes care of over what, 300, is it, Angel? 300 plants, you all. He has a green thumb for sure. So if you're into growing plants and all of that stuff, talk to Angel. And then he's also really, he has a creative leg to him. And so he loves exploring new hobbies and doing things of that nature. And so I want us to welcome and say hello to Angel. As we are welcoming Angel, we have to introduce the beautiful Lauren. So Lauren also works with Angel. She is a change consultant and evaluator focused on the intersection of the built environment and human health. Lauren has a really strong commitment to equity in the work that we do, especially for, or specifically for, underserved populations. Lauren has a master's degree in urban planning and development, specializing in sustainability. She has multiple years, over 5, 6 years experience in health equity, and most importantly, food systems. We talk a lot about data. If you're into data and you're into interpreting data and humanizing data, Lauren excels at that piece, folks. Lauren is like the data storytelling guru, right? Okay, that's in layman's terms. But she's led like statewide evaluations for nutrition incentive programs. And then, as we did Angel, Lauren also is a creative, right? So Lauren enjoys the more relaxing things like yoga, watching movies, reading books, celebrating the world in which we live in, right? Earth Day, every day, as she would put it. But I want to welcome them both. And before they go live, I would like to turn this to Lamont to say a few things about our wonderful partners at Change Matrix.
Thank you, Nastasia. That was a very sizzling introduction. Don't y'all just love Nastasia? Let's give Nastasia some love. She just brings so much joy. Yeah, I can go on about Angel and Lauren. Me and Rachel have had the opportunity to work really closely with them behind the scenes. And just as a reminder, Change Matrix is hired by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, who this whole Systems Alignment Innovation Hub and the Community Power Network and all the work we're doing is funded by, to do the independent evaluation so that we can learn and grow and refine, what we're doing to better support communities. And they've been really wonderful. And so you all know they've come and spoken to you all and gathered information and data and your stories to inform improvements on the Systems Alignment Innovation Hub. And we have been listening, and we super appreciate your feedback. But before I get into some of the changes based on your feedback, I just want to turn it over to Angel and Lauren, if you all have any quick things before you go into your deeper presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lamont. Hi, everyone. And Nastasia, thank you so much for that really warm introduction. As you were going on, I was just like, oh my God, this is the red carpet treatment right here today. I so appreciate it. And we are so humbled and so excited to be here with you all back in this space to have continued conversations about what learning and engagement can look like for the Community Power Network. Given everything that we do, we are not perfect and we are going to mess up. That's the reality of this work. And we are just so grateful for you all to be in this space and be willing to provide feedback and ideas of ways that we could imagine a future that is different than what we have currently. And so with all that said, we are hoping that with the conversation today, that we can once again thank you for the feedback that you all shared when we were here last. And to, as Lamont said, talk a little bit more about ways that we can incorporate some of our learning and evaluation work with you all and how we can co-collaborate or collaborate and co-create something that is truly representative and that is coming from you all as the Community Power Network. And then the last thing I'll share before I pass it back to Lamont is that although Robert Wood Johnson Foundation are the grant holders, or they hold the purse and pay us out, we do not work for them. We are here truly to support you all and to do this work in a way that makes sense for you all. And that includes everyone here at the CPN, but also with Lamont, Nastasia, Rachel, Lori, and other staff who help run and organize and keep the CPN going. So with that, I'll pass it back to Lamont, unless Lauren, you have something you'd like to share? No? Great.
All right, thank you, Angel. And so I wanted to share some of the upcoming changes based on the feedback that you all provided. And so me and Rachel submitted last week the grant renewal for the next 2 years of the Systems Alignment Innovation Hub. And that's like with the grantees, the Community Power Network, and all the different parts of this Systems Alignment Innovation Hub. And so as a part of that, you all mentioned that it'd be nice to have like low barrier funds that's very quick to help support things that might come up in the research or work that you all are doing at community at the ground level. So we heard that request. Angel and Lauren, put that feedback in the report. And so that gave us the information we needed to advocate. And Robert Wood Johnson Foundation is allowing that. So in this next cycle, we will be, which will be coming up very soon, we'll be able to offer grants from anywhere from $5,000 to $100,000 to support Black, Brown, and Indigenous-led, by us, for us, people with lived experience, most impacted led to do the work, right? And so Rachel is going to be switching up in her role and position. Rachel, please wave. Rachel is going to be standing up the Equity Capacity Building Grant, and we want to do that in collaboration with you all. So that brings us to the next point. And I think Carissa and Mustafa and others really led a beautiful discussion the last time that Change Matrix was here. And so we have carved some funding aside where the Community Power Network will be able to select 3 representatives to serve in an advisory capacity. And you all later will determine like how you all want to do that, how long the people will serve, and they'll be able to get stipends because we don't want to exploit people's labor and wisdom. Thank you, Carissa. And so at another Community Power Network, we'll decide how you all want to select the 3 folks to represent, and what that would look like, how long the term will be, so others will have opportunity. And those 3 folks will represent the body of the Community Power Network and will work more closely with the Systems Alignment Innovation Hub team, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Change Matrix, the Systems for Action Program Office, and be an accountability partner and reporting back to this group, right? And so we're really excited about that too. And there's a lot of other changes, but we want you all to really hear from Angel and Lauren today. But I just want y'all to know that we're listening, and we really appreciate the valuable feedback. And there's a lot of new opportunities coming. And also Lori is going to be in the role of Deputy Director of the Systems Alignment Innovation Hub, because we really want to live into our values when we say decolonization and indigenization. And so Lori's been amazing. Nastasia is going to be the Associate Director of Equity Center Community Design. Lamar, who some of you all know, is going to be the Associate Director over the free consulting and technical assistance. We provide free consulting and technical assistance too. So Rachel's going to put, or someone's going to put the link in the chat. If you need support, we have a wonderful team. They'll do a quick triage and connect you to the person that will be able to provide the best support. So y'all don't forget about that. I know Teddy's supposed to put a request in, and maybe some others. Carissa's going to put her request in. And then we have Dr. Espinosa that's going to be joining our team. Dr. Melissa Espinosa, some of you all may know her because she's Seattle-based. She is an Indigenous scholar, researcher, practitioner. She is so amazing. She's going to be Associate Director of Transformative Research Practices and Indigenization. And then y'all wait for it. This is a juicy one. Regina Cannon is going to be coming on as a Chief Strategic Advisor. The Regina Cannon from Arc for Justice. So it's going to be a really exciting round. And so, yeah, and we can't do this without you all, right? We want to build community. We want to support each other and doing transformative work at the local level. And we just really appreciate y'all showing up. So that's some of the exciting things that are coming up soon. Back to you, Angel.
Thanks so much, Lamont. Do you want to have or hold any space for any questions or comments?
Oh, thank you. So, any questions or comments? And there's no silly or odd or stupid question or comment. Anything. All right.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Lamont, for sharing some of those updates and wonderful celebrations. We are so excited for that. And I hope you saw all of the reactions that folks were sharing as well on the chat. But we'd like to slightly switch a little bit back into some of the conversations on learning and evaluation, so that we can work together and really kind of start thinking and generating some ideas on ways that we could elevate the work that you all are doing here within the Community Power Network. And so we figured that to start this off, it might be good to give a little overview of who we are. We come from a company called Change Matrix. It is a national consulting firm that is women owned. It is relatively small with a total number of about 25 team members. And our organization's mission is to motivate, manage, and measure change to support systems and communities that improve lives. And as part of this work, we provide capacity building, learning and evaluation support, technical assistance, training, facilitation, strategic planning, and implementation. And all of this is to say basically anything that any of the organizations that we partner with, we need help in order to facilitate change to happen within the organization, because we recognize that change is an ever-present part of our lives that happens continuously and is something that can be uncomfortable. And we want to work through that process with everyone that we collaborate with and we partner with. And so if you go to the next slide, please, Lauren. All of that is to kind of provide some basis of the connection of how we came to be and how we connected with the work that you all are doing and with SAIH and Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And so for this past year, the work that we have been doing with you all and with SAIH has been pretty limited because it was an after addition to the work that we were doing to support another grantee. And as part of that piece, I think we fall into this space of like wanting to do too much with not enough time, going into trying to figure things out. And what often goes out first is communication. And so as part of that piece is, I don't think we fully explained or talked that through with you all. And we want to share a little bit more before we then start thinking about what we would want to do moving forward. And so our goal through our evaluation work with you all and with TAC is to explore and continuously refine the learning, impact, and reach of SAIH short and long-term strategies. And we do this through employing a lens that centers Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities and other socially disenfranchised populations. The next goal is to develop a comprehensive story plan incorporating SAIH quality control and support that they're kind of doing on their own, and related data illustrating achievements and identifying potential enhancements and learning within SAIH and the broader RWJF portfolio. And the third one is to elevate and highlight the importance of increasing funding accessibility and opportunities that centers lived and living experience and explores the disruption of traditional grant-making practices. And so this is our way with Lamont, with Rachel, and folks as we were kind of getting to know each other and figure out who we were and what we were going to do to partner with. What we saw and what we felt made sense for us to focus our time on, our limited time on. And so as we have had the opportunity to be with you all in this space, hear about the work that you're doing, learn more about how you operate in this work and what really drives you and moves you and excites you, we are hoping that we can take this momentum and this energy to really start thinking about what we want to do over the year ahead. So how can we support and step in to support the work that you all are doing and to elevate that into either a product or some sort of learning brief? What makes the most sense for you all in this space? Next slide, please. So before we get to that, there's a lot of things that Lamont has mentioned that we've learned, and there's some other things that Lauren and I have been thinking about and sitting with as learners in this space. We continuously love learning, and it is just a part of the work that we do, and it is what allows for systems change to happen. And so there are various motivations for attending the CPN. So coming in here, we've heard and seen you all have different reasons for wanting to be in this space together. You love that it's a welcoming and a healing space. You share survival strategies is a term that Lamont and our team were having a conversation about instead of using resilience to really showcase the impact and the realities of having these survival strategies in order for you all to navigate and to survive truly these oppressive systems. Then we've also seen and learned about the challenges and frustrations living and working within these systems, especially within philanthropy and with funders. And the last two bullet points, which is what we're really here to focus in our time today, is that there's an opportunity that we heard loud and clear from you all to co-create a strategy to address the identified challenges within philanthropic entities or funders or grant making, or it could be another topic for you all to decide. And the second one is that you all want to collaborate and engage with us in every aspect of how we operate in this work and how we work alongside with you. And to kick off or to start off that conversation, we figured that we would open it up to a larger group conversation. And we also recognize that folks sometimes like to share in the chat or prefer to type things down. And so we have an activity where we will have a couple of questions and we will be using a Mentimeter to kind of help facilitate that conversation as well. But we don't want it to be limiting to just either Mentimeter or speaking out. But before we get started with the activity, any questions or thoughts or feedback that you all have with what I've shared so far?
I see in the chat, Tori mentioned excited to learn more about survival strategies.
Yes. Tori, would you like to learn more about our conversation that led us to start using those words with you all, or more about survival strategies that you would like to implement in your work, or that you are implementing in your work?
I would love to learn more about survival strategies to implement in work. Definitely, because I think as we begin to elevate our voices and step out there to speak, and sometimes you can be targeted, and when you haven't created that community of support, and it can be very psychologically unsafe in lots of environments that we have to walk in as leaders. And so that's one of the missing pieces that I think are missing from a lot of the engagement strategies that I've learned about. How do we survive and thrive when we have all these tools to start engaging? So
love it, Tori. Absolutely. And I think that there is so much beauty in the work that you all are doing and the work that the survival strategies that you all have implemented already to share and talk about how you are able to navigate and work in this space. And I think that the other thing that is coming to mind as we're talking about survival strategies for us to continue working on and discussing, maybe at a community office hour, might be a good topic for conversation for that. Lamont, I don't know if you have any additional thoughts.
No, I agree. That would be a wonderful topic that we're going to put a note, Tori, to talk about survival strategies. Thank you. And welcome, Deborah.
Love it. Excellent. So then we can go ahead and pull up the Mentimeter so that we can start maybe hearing some thoughts on other things in addition to maybe survival strategies that we can focus on for the work ahead.
Angel, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you really quickly share with what we'll be doing in the Mentimeter? Deborah just joined us. I just wanted her to get yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. When Lauren, do you want me to share that? Is that me? I have it open. Here we go. So let me just pull it up so folks can get started. Can you all see the Mentimeter screen with the code at the top and the menti.com?
Yes.
So we are hoping.
You want us to click on this? Is that, sorry.
So you can either, did Lauren share the link on the chat?
Yes.
Yes. So you're welcome to either click on the link or go to menti.com and use the code that is at the top of this screen to join the Mentimeter. And so Mentimeter is a tool that is able to collect responses from folks and place them here for everyone to see and share. And that way we can have a collective of all of our thoughts and conversations today that we can reflect and look back on. And so the hope is that before we kind of jumped into the work and we didn't take the time to sit with you all and just try to understand what are some of the things that are valuable to you all that you've learned from? What are the things that excite you about the Community Power Network? And what does that mean for this work? And so we are hoping to take a step back before this new year begins to wrap up what we're currently doing with you all in this iteration by wanting to have a conversation with you all about thinking of your time within the Community Power Network. Which stories or activities have been the most valuable for you to learn from and to share as a group? What are some of the things that really resonated with you as you've been joining the Community Power Network that you really want to make sure that people know about? And for now, the people that you want to know about are us, everyone that is here today. So what are some of the things that you've really elevated and that you found really connected with the work that you're doing? And as I mentioned when I first started describing this work, you're welcome to unmute yourself and respond to this. We will take notes, or you are welcome to enter it through the Mentimeter link that's on the chat, or you can also enter it in the chat of the Zoom, whatever is most easiest for you and whatever gets your story or your message across. And so I'm seeing a couple folks entering thoughts in there. But before I start reading anything that's coming in, is there anyone that would like to unmute and share their response to this question? Love it. I'm seeing some responses coming into Mentimeter. And so we have emotional capacity building support, survival strategies, how to build community power, equity-centered community design. Ooh, I love them. They're coming in. Steps of ECCD in our work. And if someone could put in the chat what that stands for, that would be really, really helpful, just to make sure.
Equity-centered community.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know. And then understanding, calling out, calling in, and the like. Community-centered research strategies and capacity building. Community design and strategies to have communities historically closed-minded to be curious and seek more information. And we are in the beginning of the road. Active listening and the powerful thing to learn is a powerful thing to learn. Absolutely. And so thinking about some of these, when you talk about community design and community-centered research strategies, I would love to hear more about what specifically within those areas have you found the most useful in the time that you've been within the CPN. If anyone would like to share more on that. And what comes to mind as I'm reading this, because the way that I'm reading this is, you know, the work that you all are doing is really centered on community-led, community design, community-centered work. But the piece that I'm seeing and hearing with some of these other thoughts is that there's this benefit, this connection that you all get when you come to the CPN that is not necessarily seen elsewhere. But Chris, I see that your hand is raised. So if you'd like to.
I was just trying real hard to remember what it was. And I don't remember if we've talked about it all, but considering some of the experiences I've had with some groupings, I'm wondering if there's any way to learn more about how to do sort of like a power analysis or something of members in the group in a way that seems sort of, friendly, but people can get it, so that it's not like if you bring it up, like we should do a power analysis, everybody goes, or something like that. Because I think that is an issue for some of the groups.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. And do you think that that goes beyond to other language that maybe has historically been used to talk about some of these different approaches, that it's just not, they're not the language that are used in other spaces, and so then it's more of a conversation of what it means for this group and for the work that you all are doing?
It probably could, yeah. I've known, again, I come more from public health, but also other areas. And I just came out of a group that was actually doing a nice job. But I know somebody even asked, how can we collaborate better? And, just the terms of collaboration, participation, we use them a lot, especially because, of course, everybody feels those are good words and stuff. But the actual how to and everything, and we've addressed a lot of things in the CPN around that, but kind of putting it together. So yeah, I think the language has a lot to do with things.
Thank you, Chris. Any other folks?
Chris, doing that power analysis is totally reasonable. And I feel like it's on our radar in the future. Lamont and the team does a beautiful job laying out like the gatekeeping and power analysis piece. And so more to come from that. So I'm so happy that you bring that up.
And I really like Chris's comment too. Like if you're, say that Chris is presenting this to a group, and it might be some traditional partners that when you bring up the word power, it can create some tension, but you all can adapt the language too. So we could call it a partner analysis or network analysis or collaboration analysis, but still get at the core essential piece that we want to unpack too. So thank you, Chris, for bringing that up, because language matters and we kind of have to meet groups where they're at too. Yeah. Where they could get comfortable with talking about power and positionality.
I was wondering if Mustafa wouldn't mind. He says he can't put his comment on the thing, which I like him. I found you could do it once and that was it. But I'm wondering, Mustafa, if you could just tell us what it is.
Mustafa, are you able to come off mute?
Well, I'm gonna write it. I'm just, I'm gonna write it in the chat because I cannot do it there. So I'm gonna write it in the chat.
Sounds good. Okay. I'm working on it.
Because if I talk, I'm gonna talk and it's gonna be really, so I don't want to push myself because I have a lot, really in this area, a lot.
Okay.
I'm trying to go and change it, but I didn't realize
I see that. And I see
Okay, listen
Mustafa
to
put it in the chat too.
understand the culture, cultural humanity, religion, respect, give space to everyone to talk.
Right. Thank you. And so with that, we'll try to move to the next question, but maybe instead of Mentimeter, we can just put it in the chat so it doesn't mess with the amount of times you can put it in there. But the next question that we were hoping is,
Angel, can we do both and? I think this is a really cool concept that we have.
Sure.
And I feel like we can utilize it at the end when we pass out, what we talked about today or what we captured today. I love what you and Lauren did with this.
And folks, you have up to 200 characters. So you saw how someone put multiple thoughts and they separated them with commas. So you could put all your thoughts in one before you submit.
Yeah. Thank you, Lamont. Technology. So with this next question, this comes from a lot of the conversation that we had a few months ago, where there was a lot of momentum from you all to create either an open letter or some sort of blog post or some sort of externally facing product that you could create as the CPN, as a community power network, to then elevate and share that out with an external audience to be determined on who you wanted to. But in the conversation, we were directly talking about funders and writing something to them. And so as part of the work ahead, we are wanting to see kind of what are some ideas that are coming to you all in terms of what product you would like to co-create as part of the Community Power Network, and what format or medium would you like to use for this. And so we are really looking to be as creative as possible to think about different ways that we can come together to create something. And from this, then continue using our time whenever we would come in with you all to develop whatever that product is, including using the time during the community hours that you all have as part of this work. And so thinking about an externally facing product, what format or medium would you all like to use to share your message as a community power network? And try to be as detailed as possible in your responses. And again, you're welcome to unmute yourself or to enter it into Metimeeting or in the comments. More than one product would be good to reach more funders and have greater impact. Yep. The medium. Have any of you ever posted anything on the medium that have experience with that? That would like to share how that process has been for you all? Oh, okay. Thank you for your comment. I do too. I've never posted on the medium specifically, but I think I have a colleague who has that we could tap into to see what that process has looked like. Thank you. And then the other one that just came in is present at national conferences for funders. So I'd be curious to hear what this looks like for you all, because it's like the Community Power Network. So do you envision maybe like a convening at a national conference where you all could kind of join in on either a presentation or on a get together? What does that look like for you all as a Community Power Network coming together to present at something like this at a national conference? And Lamont and Rachel and Nastasia and Lori would love to hear your thoughts too on what that would look like for you all to bring some of the findings and the learnings that you all are getting as a Community Power Network.
I see Teddy has some comments in the chat. Teddy, I don't know if you're able to unmute.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think that's a great idea to talk about presenting at national conferences. And I've been a member of NHSBC, it's a data conference. It's National Human Services Data Conference. And then the other one is National Alliance to End Homelessness. So those are the two that I know about. And I know NHSBC has broadened its kind of topical area over the years from being just about, homeless data and systems to being more about how to manage COCs and how, just sharing. So I think those would be excellent places to kind of check into. And NHSDC does their conference twice a year. I believe National Alliance does too.
Just to piggyback from what Teddy is saying, I know at the National Alliance to End Homelessness Conference, the funders tend to have like a pre-meeting and they have their own track at that National Alliance to End Homelessness Conference. And I think there's like funders together and there's some larger national funders collective, like where Robert Wood and the Koch brothers and Microsoft Philanthropies, like they have their own kind of, I forgot what it's called, but they have but I'm sure someone at Robert Wood can let us, Robert Wood Johnson can connect us to who those folks are, but they do have their convenings and stuff.
And then Dr. Green, I'll just say one more thing. HUD is also really ramping up the training over the past few years. And so I know they're doing project-specific training, but they're also doing an equity-based kind of track And so, and they get guest speakers from different communities. So that might be an area to get into the HUD TA network.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think thank you so much for those ideas. And there was someone that entered a little confused. What kind of information do we want to transmit, convey, for what purpose, and for funding only? And I think that is the question that we are hoping to answer with you all in this work in these questions. So what we heard last time was that there was some really good energy and inspiration around and motivation around writing to write some sort of letter to funders on some of the continued oppressive strategies that they continue to utilize within their grant making activities, some of the challenges that you've all experienced and have had to navigate in order to even be able to do the work that you're wanting to do, just to be able to get a couple funds, a couple dollars in the work. And so I am hoping that together we can identify what some of those topics might be. And so the first question was really getting at, like, what is coming to mind from the CPN that is really sitting with you all that you really want to make sure that is heard externally? So what is it that's happening here, the magic that you all feel, the connection that you really want to elevate in your story to share externally? And then the second question was really focused on, given this story and these ideas, what is a product that would convey and would help get us into that space? And so hearing kind of that intention, I would love to open it up now for anyone that has any additional thoughts, or if it resonates, if something is still confusing, what is coming to mind for folks?
Please don't hesitate to ask clarifying question if something doesn't seem clear. I think what we heard too, when Change Matrix was asking you all questions in the initial evaluation, like, this was a huge sore spot where organizations, especially small community-based Black, Brown, Indigenous, bias forest groups, you have to put all this energy in writing these grants, and sometimes you don't even hear back and there's no feedback, or sometimes you do get a little bit of funding to do research or something, and then they get the knowledge that they need, and then they don't help support the sustainability. And so, or you have to keep writing these large, complex grants when you're already in their system. So how could they use what's already there? And so this was like such a huge barrier that organizations face, especially grassroots, and funding is such a big thing, like to do the work and to survive. And folks don't have grant writers, or more specifically, research grant writers, because the National Institute of Health, they give out $30 billion a year, $30 billion. And a lot of Black, Brown, Indigenous, community-led, bias forest groups are not accessing that money, yet we're the ones closest to the problem and closest to the solutions, right? And so we could see how the evidence base and what Medicaid and Medicare will fund is perpetuating these systemic inequities, because the people closest to the problem, they know what works, they know what they need. And so that's the big mission of the Systems Alignment Innovation Hub, really, is to support our grantees, to support our communities, and really decolonizing the research so we could really know what works and lift up our indigenous ways, our African-American cultural ways of knowing and being, and really get more resources into building community power. Yeah. So
I
back
think
to
folks
Angel's
for
question. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I think that no, thank you, Lamont. I think that the questions that Angel and Lauren presented are really good ones. If we could go back to the last question we responded to, Angel, if we could share screen, because I feel like more responses came on even after the fact. And so if we as a group of folks and as a community can kind of understand what some of these things are. So for example, okay, podcast. We're talking about creating externally facing products and what we would like to use. There's a lot of consensus. When I look at this, folks, I look at where's there a lot of consensus around. A lot of consensus around what you had mentioned, philanthropic partnerships and letters or messaging to funders and philanthropic partners. Um, Folks are asking for templates, question mark, if we have some sort of template to help guide what those look like. Listen to this, letter to researchers to be published in a journal. So around the same thing around messaging. Understand the culture, cultural humanity, religion. Oh, this was Mustafa's, really nice. Let's see. Op-eds are helpful where there are local regional newspapers. Social media like Facebook can be accessible even to those who do not have access to newspapers. Yeah. Huh. I think another platform we've been utilizing or trying to utilize more as like something open face or public facing is LinkedIn. And so exploring the functionality of what that would look like. Let's see. Do you all have templates? Okay. Things that draws folks in, like videos, like the little voice that draw you in, and maybe a written piece, giving folks a taste of what they'll receive and what they can bring. I love this idea. I think that we can think about something like videos or create something asynchronous that gives folks a taste of what it is, of whatever product that we develop. Chris, what were you thinking? I see you.
I was just wondering, this is fascinating. Would this be something where you might want to tell about or show, let's say, something that was done someplace that might be useful? Now, for example, New Mexico, at one point, a lot of the smaller foundations in New Mexico got together. And I believe what they have done is created one site where when CBOs are writing their grants, it's all submitted into one site. Now, it's like, I guess, the one door or whatever it is, and you would do the same kind of application, but it would go to different foundations or something like that. I didn't know something like that might be, showing in this communication, like a step that would be useful or something like that, and being able to show that like a state had done that or some other group had done that. The thing is, I have no idea how well that works, or what has come out of it from either CBO's perspective or a funder's perspective of whether this is useful, effective, or not. I do know I've seen other writings and other groups that argue for a different approach by foundations and stuff. And it would seem to me that if we go ahead with this, we might want to find some of them to see, what they've kind of said to, support it. Anyway, just a thought.
Yeah, thank you, because I remember that as well being a conversation of I think the universal grant application that folks were sharing about, and that I think would be an excellent like a recommendation or alternative of like how this is how it could be done, where it facilitates that piece. So I love that. And so what this is giving to me, what I'm feeling as I'm seeing both of your responses to these questions of everyone, is I'm seeing almost like a story start to develop, right? How there's almost like these conversations or this space that you all have come together within this CPN, where you have been able to learn alongside each other, learn with each other, and really try to create this community in a way that really addresses some of the challenges or some of the racism that you've all had to navigate in this work, and oppression, systemic oppression. And as part of this story, the pieces that have been kind of popping out as you all have been sharing is this idea behind what comes with community power. And so we talk about community power and we see community power in different articles that have been written and published. But for this specific, it's unique in that this is community-led work that you all are coming together and that you are having to understand what are the areas that make sense for you all to incorporate it into your work so that you can do and receive some of the funding that Lamont was talking about that is oftentimes not included for you, that is oftentimes not accessible to you all. And then the latter piece is identifying and how to share that through either video storytelling, where you all could maybe submit a video or a story or something that is resonating to you, to then share that out with everyone, either through social media or through different LinkedIn and websites. And so that's kind of like what my brain goes as I'm seeing some of these thoughts. And what I think might be helpful is if we organize these into like different options with different strategies and activities that you could then all vote on, and we could at least which one we could start with and then go into these other ones as the year progresses. But is that something that would sound good to you all, an approach, like taking all of this, putting it into like an organized table that you all could then vote on which one to start off with and which one we could do next, and then we could kind of go from there to develop a work plan on how we could develop this learning strategy as the Community Power Network? I'm seeing some hearts, some thumbs up.
I love this. I love this idea. If you all look at what is being shared on the screen, what other things may be missing? I'm happy that you brought this one back up too, Angel, because something I see as as a facilitator of the work, I see you, Thomas, that's missing is the data piece. So like, for example, how might something that would be valuable here is how might CBOs or community measure success? I think about Lauren and the data and evaluation pieces because everybody's success looks different and success is not the same. And so like if we could add like data measuring success and interpreting data as appropriate or something similar. Thomas, what were you thinking?
So I have a couple questions, and it's one of those questions that you think is dumb before you ask it, and it's like, I need to get this out though. Okay, what's the purpose specifically of this? Because I kind of have an understanding that we want to get the information out, create a tool, get it out, and we want to use some kind of platform to do that. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when it comes to some of the things that we've already talked about, there's an audience for what we've talked about, and then we're going to try to break into a new audience is what I kind of hear. A lot of times we have these ideas of, hey, how about we try this or we try that? But there's other mediums that are out there that people actually go to that we can tap into and not try to spin our wheels creating something new. And, when we think about this, one of the areas that is down here, but I think needs to be highlighted a little bit more is cultural competency. And because we talk a lot about that here, and we are very well versed on, everybody here has a different space and place. We're learning, and our culture has grown, and we're more accepting of different perspectives. And I think that's one of the strengths. And so when I think about getting it out there, number one is really narrowing down what the strengths are of this group and how we're going to share that story, because there's a lot to share and there's a need. So not only sharing stories, but filling a need. And then two, finding the mediums that are already available that we could just tap right into and not have to, spin our wheels and we can create new space. Let me just say that. But I think we should focus first on where are the areas that we can be heard most, first of all. And then second of all, then what other mediums do we feel like we could tap on and make an influence in?
Yeah, I love that, Thomas. That's exactly, I think, what our hope was for today's conversation. And I think how you just described it is spot on. Carissa?
Yeah, I love that. Also what he said. Thanks, Thomas. So one thing I'm wondering is if we could clarify actually what the point is, because I think that really matters. I think from my perspective and my understanding from being at these Power Building Network meetings for so long, which I'm like so grateful for. In my mind, I'm thinking the goal is to come up with strategies, I guess for you all to implement, or not necessarily change matrix, but the TAC, and then potentially through future grantees. I don't know if that's any connection to this, or yeah, if we could just clarify the purpose, I think, of what we're doing with this information would help.
Yeah, thank you, Carissa, for that. And Lamont, I welcome you in as well. But I there's many different components for learning and evaluation as it relates to the work that Lamont and Nastasia and Rachel and others work on. And specifically though, for the CPN, for the Community Power Network here with you all, we don't have any currently for the year ahead, we don't have expectations of like what we hope and want to come out of this conversation. I think the one only hope is that we can work together to elevate whatever is important to you all within the CPN as a collective that relates to learning for the work that you're doing. And so when I know that when we use learning and evaluation, we always go to like what has historically been learning and evaluation, which are, it's rooted in racism. It's rooted in ways to control and to talk about the impact and the return on investment on like education and federal spending. And we want to move away from that piece, especially in this work. And that is not where we're coming from. And so with us, we are wanting to hear from you all as you think about the work that you all do as part of the CPN, but also in your own personal experiences. What is important? What matters to you all to share out with everyone so that you can have this product or a tangible item that can be shared to commemorate the work that is being done here with the CPN. And it doesn't have to be a singular product like you all have mentioned. It is just a place to start with us. And so really, Carissa and others, what is the purpose of our time here with you all? What would be the most beneficial use of our kind of knowledge and experience that we bring with evaluation and learning into the CPN and the work that you all are doing?
Yeah, I like how you put that, Angel. We all here in this group are a fierce group of community organizers, doing the work at the ground level. And then you all surfaced such important information. And so I think Change Matrix is trying to really get direction from you all on how you would like to share this information, especially since this whole, project is, work is funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, but this Community Power Network is our collective space for healing, for peer learning, and all of that. But there's an opportunity to leverage your role and participation in this Community Power Network, your proximity to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and potentially other funders to shift the landscape and make it easier, more accessible, more culturally relevant, and all the things, right? To try to utilize some of that. So I'll shut up because I see Brother Thomas.
I was just kind of thinking through what was being said, and then what you shared earlier is it seems like this work could potentially lead to funding for the smaller organizations, the lack of resources that you've talked about. One of the things while you were talking earlier that I thought about funding is it's not that we can't come to the table, it's that the funding's so limited that we have to pick and choose where we utilize our efforts, our resources, and everything else. And so coming to this table right here, hopefully can allow us to have bigger return on investment than if we were going after something, that we can now create the table that allows us to come and share what we're doing so that we can eventually, get the funding we need to do the work we're doing on the ground. We have a lot of us start our organizations with a heartbeat, and that's it, a heartbeat for the community. And I don't know how to run a nonprofit. I don't know about this funding. I don't know about this or that. All I know is I have a heartbeat and I need funding to make it work a lot of times. And so the hope is coming here and saying, let's put our efforts collectively together to create a narrative and a story that allows funding to funnel to this space where we can potentially get to that. But not only that, we have a lot of shared knowledge, and that helps a lot of us get to speed, helps us with our research. It helps us with other things that we have. And so that's what I was hearing earlier. And I was just wondering, if that's the case of what we're saying here on this platform.
Yes, absolutely. Spot on. And that is, those are that and additional thoughts for it is exactly what we are hoping that we can support in this coming year with you all. Chris?
And I'm sorry, I know I talk too much and have been criticized on that, but I do want to back up, I think, what Thomas said. And to me, it would be the very simple thing of doing a little research first, because I know there are other groups out there that have brought up these same issues about funding and better ways to do it with CBOs. And I put one suggestion in the chat just now because I've really seen this person, Vu Lee, make really great and humorous at the same time criticisms of the system and everything. And I'm thinking the more we know what others might have said already or where they're promoting, that would then maybe help us either redesign what we want to do or be able to focus it a little bit more or something like that. And just as Thomas said, with limited resources, that might be very helpful for guiding us.
Love it.
I just want to add too, the time is really good because, as you all know, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, they are dismantling a decades-long work that they've done that's fall under like Systems for Action, Policy for Action, Evidence for Action, Health Equity Scholars, and a whole bunch of just amazing work that they've done to advance health equity. And they're wanting to shift their investments. So right now, they are actually currently developing and designing something new. And the RFPs for that will go out towards the end of this year, like sometimes during October, November, or December, for what their whole new infrastructure is going to look like. And the direction that they said that they are going in is an unapologetic focus on undoing structural racism, building community power, and lifting up other ways of knowing. And so not having such an intensive kind of academic focus, but, also leveraging, academic and Western ways of knowing, but like things like participatory action research and they convened a group of indigenous folks, researchers, to explore other ways of knowing. So it's really exciting. So, and what we've been told is that some aspects like the Systems Alignment Innovation Hub, and I believe Systems for Action may be invited to apply for that, but we'll keep you all posted. But this is also a critical point because they're really, and Change Matrix is really aiding in this with the foundation, is lifting up the learnings and the things that you all are saying so that can inform the work that's underway. So the timing is really powerful.
Thank you, everyone. So we have a lot of really good information, especially with that last kind of direction shift that we just had there in that moment. So I want to hold this space to see if anyone else has anything else that they would like to add, given some of this kind of shift in conversation. And if not, that's okay too.
And as folks are marinating on their thoughts, Angel, Lauren, what are some next steps?
Yeah, so absolutely you'll get some templates and some other pieces that you had mentioned for the community hours that are happening next week. And those are more, that's really specific to op-ed and kind of social media strategies that we wanted to touch base on and share. But in terms of this, I would love to synthesize all of the thoughts that everyone has shared and put them into a document that can be shared with you all, that we can kind of look back on the topics that have been brought up, the themes that came up from what you all just shared. And then maybe we could vote on our first activity that we would like to do together as a CPN within learning and evaluation, based off of the thoughts that you all have shared. And so I will create things, and if they don't sound quite right, then we will change them and edit them until they do. But I will do my best, and then we can kind of get going with whatever idea you all vote on as being the most relevant to begin with. Does that sound good?
And I just wanted to follow up that, Chris, I definitely heard what you were saying. And I do think kind of having a landscape analysis of like what else is out there, what are people writing, what mediums are people already using, doing that research as well. So we will create a space where everyone can share if they find any resource that's kind of inspiring. So we can start pulling that together as well.
And that falls, I was thinking on that was really relevant to Lamont, what you had mentioned earlier about the some of the work that's upcoming as being part of that collective work, because I think it informs a lot of that as well with what is out there currently. Yes, and we will develop other ways for folks to provide feedback. We've done Microsoft Forms, as well as some other just regular, like reach out to us separately. And of course, at any moment, in any time, in any conversation that we have, we invite you all to reach out to Lauren and I as you feel comfortable with any feedback that you have, and in any way that feels most sense to you. We will put our emails in the chat. But with that, I'll pass it up to Nastasia to maybe wrap us up for the day.
Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lauren and Angel, for facilitating conversation today in regards to things that we've learned, things that we want to implement or focus on moving on in our future. Lamont, thank you so much for contributing also to conversation when we think about bigger picture ideas. And then thank you for all of you, because we can't have the conversation without you all driving the work. And so that's really important. We are going to pick up where we left off in community hours. When is community hours? Next week on the 5th. So you all should get some messaging after this meeting about community hours. We'll follow up with Angel and Lauren. And other than that, I think that's it. Lamont, did you have? Yeah.
I think in the next community hours is part of our brave and courageous conversations, and like people building the skill and having those brave and courageous conversations, facilitating that. Rhonda has been sharing some really awesome videos with us. I believe her name is Loretta Ross, right, Rhonda? And so I think we were going to continue with that. Was that right? That we were going to continue?
Yeah, we did the first half of it with this group. There's a second piece that dives in pretty good as well.
Y'all, it is really, really, really good. So if you can come to the next community hours, I highly recommend it, so we can learn from the wisdom of Loretta Ross. I mean, she just really brings it home in a really powerful way. And the whole thing is, how can we cultivate more compassionate connections and build a greater movement that is often divided and polarized? And so she really offers a beautiful, beautiful path.
Nice. Well, there you have it, folks. Until next time. Thank you.